Hey guys. I hope you guys can see me. I'm really trying to get this live stream correct. So I relaunched the live stream. I'm pretty sure my audio is good. We're waiting for the live stream to start in 4 minutes with Lori Vallow giving her opening statement. So that should be an interesting one. She's already acting like all is well. If you saw her interview she did before this trial started, she seems very disassociated is what I saw. Okay, we are live. Awesome. I think that I, had to start and stop YouTube again, but drop a comment in the chat. Let me know you guys are here. Let me know you guys are watching. I am monitoring my chat, so we are countdown. It's 3 minutes, 40 seconds. I don't know why I'm like excited. I don't know. This is weird. I don't know. I think I'm more excited about doing the live right now. Live reaction. To me, this case is a slam dunk for the prosecution. The prosecution basically gave their entire case, in my opinion, in their opening statement. It was a very, very long opening statement. I just live streamed that. You guys can watch that, but she basically just went over the entire case in the opening statement, and we will see how Lori does it. Lori actually, I wonder if there's last minute changes that they're allowed to, or she's allowed to do, because they gave her a lunch break right now. She had an extra hour to maybe tweak her strategy based on, it's kind of like football, right? The coin toss, like who goes first, and then you strategize after what position you're in. So she's coming in second. I don't know if that's how it always goes in court. If the defense goes in second, I think that's probably the case. But to me, that's a little bit of an advantage. And the prosecution laid out their entire case. And, Lori is basically going to respond. That's what this opening statement is for. Or maybe she won't respond and she'll just go right into her own defense, and maybe it won't have anything to do with the prosecution's case, and she'll go an entirely different direction. But she's probably got to respond to some of the narrative that the prosecution just laid down. Let's see if there's any audio. No audio yet. I hope you guys are having a great day. It's 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time in California. I just came from outside. I had to walk my dog. It's getting pretty warm outside. Spring has definitely sprung. And we're here for it, man. I love this time of year. I mean, who doesn't? The weather's just warm and we don't have to wear jackets. It was a mild winter. I would, but that's California. So I would say it never really got extremely cold. Not that I can remember. It didn't. So here we are. It's now April. Not too much rain. I don't know why I'm giving the weather. I hope you guys are enjoying the weather wherever you're at. Let me know where you're watching from. And I hope you guys like this channel. So, okay, 45 seconds. I wonder if the audio, whoever is running this live stream, they were making comments earlier. Oh, the channel mod is saying shit. Here we go. Okay, so even the channel mod is in this, is invested in this. No audio yet. I don't know who is.
However you book your hotel.
Okay, there's the audio. So that's good. That means they're about to start because they kicked in the audio. Here we go. Let me know where you guys are watching from. Supposedly juror number 3 went home because his work didn't pay him for jury duty. Like, I guess, I don't know how that goes. Like,
All right, we're on the
you
record.
would
State of
think
Arizona
that
versus Lori Daybell. The attorneys are present, the defendant's present. The jury is not present.
you would have think they would have sorted that out.
We ready to bring in the jury?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right.
And somebody in my comments
Bring in the jury.
on my other video said her name is Lori Vallow, not Lori Vallow Daybell. Well, the case against her is against Daybell, which is her new married name. So they're calling her Daybell. So I guess that is her legal name. Even though it says Lori Vallow trial, I guess they're both her names. Lori Vallow Daybell. Vallow is the man, her ex-husband, who was murdered at the hands of her brother, Alex, who the prosecution did bring up in their opening statement. And Daybell is the guy who's also personally or currently incarcerated as well. He was a cult leader that kind of got in her head, and man, he told her a bunch of sweet nothings because she got rid of her husband. She got rid of her kids. She framed her brother. I mean, does this guy have like a golden, you know what? Because that's a lot. That's too much. That lady threw her whole life away for something that's not even going to benefit her in the end. So they've had a lunch. Everybody is. I had lunch. I don't know if you had lunch. I had lunch.
Rest of the jury.
So this court feed video is 30 minutes delayed. So, oh, you guys could see I was looking up Jumpsuit Pablo. I like him. Get out the popcorn, everyone, is what the comments are saying.
All right, the jury is now present. Please be seated.
Here we go. I'm so excited. I can't believe we made it. I can't believe I got all my equipment to work.
With her opening statement.
There she is, putting her glasses on, trying to look smart.
Gentlemen of the jury, I have been charged with a crime.
Yes, you
Serious
have.
crime.
Yes,
And
it
the only
is.
question here is, did I commit this crime? Conspiracy. Conspiracy is an agreement between two or more people to commit a crime. Okay, so you see, okay. There has to be an agreement. There has to be a plan. The evidence in this case will show that Charles Vallow and I got married in February 2006. It will show that it was my fourth marriage and Charles' third marriage. At that time, we each had 2 children. I had
God.
Colby,
I
who
just
was 9,
hope
and Tylee, who was 3.
this isn't another hour
Charles
opening
had Cole, who
statement.
was also 9, and Zach, who was 7. The evidence will show that our family moved from Austin, Texas to Chandler, Arizona in 2009.
All the crazies live in Chandler.
The
Just
evidence
kidding.
will show that Charles and I adopted our great nephew, JJ, who was
That's where
born
Jodi
in
Arias was.
2012.
Was that when she killed?
It will also show that Charles and I were married for over 13 years and were raising 5 children. The evidence will show that I was a licensed cosmetologist and worked as a hairstylist for 20 years while we lived in Austin, Texas. The evidence will show that Charles was a licensed life insurance salesman and worked as an independent contractor, selling life insurance policies and annuities, and owned
He
his
was
own
a
business.
life insurance
The evidence will show
salesman,
that
and
Charles and I
she
purchased
didn't
life
even make
insurance policies
sure.
early in our marriage, and Charles had them issued to the maximum amount possible to each of us. The evidence will show that Charles was 17 years older than me, and that because of Charles' age and an issue that he had with high blood pressure, the maximum amount of life insurance that could be approved for Charles was $1 million. The maximum amount of life insurance that I could be approved for because of my age and my health was $2 million. The evidence will show that throughout our
Yeah, but he wasn't crazy
13-year
and plotting to
marriage
kill you and
that
use
we
that
always
money.
had life insurance
That was
policies.
in
When
case.
a 10-year policy lapsed, Charles would shop for another company who would approve us for the maximum amount of life insurance. The evidence will show that this was Charles' job. This is what he did. I helped him. in
Usually
this
you don't
business.
want
This
your
is
life
what he
insurance
did.
to lapse.
The evidence will show that in 2016, Charles repurchased a new $2 million life insurance policy on me, and he was the sole beneficiary. The evidence will show that Charles and I had a happy marriage for 13 years. That he was, in fact, a baseball player, and that he played high school, college ball, and AAA ball, and that he was, in fact, a left-handed pitcher, a southpaw, they call him.
You don't have
But
to
he
say.
was a right-handed
So I watch a
batter,
lot of
as
like
could be attested to by
psychology
anybody who knew Charles
and
well and his high school baseball coach,
language
Greg Davis.
analysis, and she
The
doesn't
evidence
have to
will
say
show
in
that
fact
Tylee was, and in 2014,
to emphasize things.
our family
If
moved
they're
from
facts, they're
Chandler,
facts.
Arizona to Kauai, Hawaii. We lived there for 3.5 years and returned to Chandler in 2017. The evidence will show that Tylee was 3 years old when Charles and I got married, and that when she became a teenager, the relationship between Tylee and her stepfather, Charles, became so difficult that Tylee and Charles had to seek a therapist, a family therapist, to stop them
That's
from
not
fighting.
uncommon.
The evidence
She's
will
a
show
teenage
that together,
girl.
Charles and Tylee met
That's
with this
not her
therapist
biological
after we moved back
father.
to the mainland
Of course,
in
there could be
2017.
friction.
The evidence will show that in April
And her daughter isn't here to
2018,
defend herself.
Tylee's biological father
Should she be allowed to
passed
represent
away
herself?
from a
Yes.
heart
I'm going to
attack.
go ahead and enter
And
the
at
poll.
that time, Charles
I was like the first
called
one.
Social Security
Said
and made an
100%,
appointment
yes.
at the Social Security
I
office.
object to hearsay.
Oh, you could object
Sustained.
during the. You could object during the opening statements. How come she didn't
It will
object to
show
anything?
that we did get Social Security for Tylee for her deceased father.
You could tell she's not an attorney. She didn't
until she
object
was
to
18
anything
years
in the
old,
opening
and she
statement.
was 15 years old at the time. The evidence will show that Charles and Tylee's fighting increased greatly in January of 2019 when Charles and I temporarily separated. The evidence will show that several people witnessed these terrible arguments between Tylee and Charles that increased to physical in 2019. Charles
You're
and Tylee
her
had
mother.
major increased
Where did she
arguments,
learn
two in
how to
February of 2019,
treat her
one of March of
stepfather from? You should have been
2019,
guiding
which
her.
was captured on video, one in May of 2019, one in June of 2019, and then the worst of all in July.
He's not on trial for. She's putting him on trial. Okay, this is going to be her defense.
The evidence will show that in
She's
March
putting
of
Charles on trial.
2019, Charles pulled JJ out of his special school and moved him to Houston, Texas, while we were temporarily separated.
I don't think this is a good
Tylee and I
strategy.
then joined Charles and JJ in Texas in April 2019.
This
to
is the Jody
reconcile.
Arias strategy.
The evidence will show that
I
JJ
compared her to
was
Jodi Arias, and
diagnosed
she's
with severe
already
autism
proving that.
when he was 3 years old while we lived in Hawaii.
She tried to blame the victim.
The evidence will show that for 2 years, JJ was attending a school in Gilbert, Arizona, a special school for children with autism. It's called Lauren's Life Academy. The evidence will show that in June of 2019,
People are
in
saying,
Tylee-
wow,
in
she's
JJ's
boring.
best interest, Tylee, JJ,
No train
and
of
I
thought.
moved back to Chandler, Arizona to re-enroll JJ back in Lauren's Life Academy since he had a difficult time with the Houston,
I don't know what
Texas
that
schools
was.
with no
There was a
services
sound.
for his autism. The evidence will show that Charles and I agreed it was in JJ's best interest to be in school where more services were available to him. So Charles
See
and I
what the
rented
poll results
a
are.
house
Should
here in Chandler.
Lori be able to represent herself?
On the
Yes.
day in question,
19%.
July 11th, 2019.
She should. Why not?
Charles and I were renting two
Who cares?
houses.
She's
One in
going to dig her
Houston,
own
Texas,
hole.
where he mainly resided, and one in Chandler, Arizona, where I resided with our two minor children, Tylee and JJ. By this time, our three older boys, Colby, Cole, and Zach, were adults and not living at home any longer. The evidence will show that during the months of June and July, that my husband, Charles Vallow, began to send me threatening text messages. These messages were seen by my sister Summer, and that worried her. The evidence will show that Charles insisted on flying into Phoenix on July 10th, as we've heard from the state. The evidence will show that I advised Charles that he could not stay with us at the Chandler house because he could not get along with Tylee, and I did not want them to get into another fight like they had 3 weeks prior. The evidence will show that it was ultimately decided between Charles and I on text messages that he would stay in a hotel because he traveled for business all the time and stayed in hotels all the time, and that I would book it for him since I worked for him and booked all of his travel.
If you are
The
trying
evidence will show
to
that Charles did in fact fly into Phoenix on
work as a
Wednesday,
family, you
July 10th,
don't
and stayed in the hotel that I booked for
ignore
him.
your problems.
The
And
evidence will show that Charles paid to fly my brother
she
Adam
used
Cox
her
into Phoenix
daughter
from Kansas
as
on
an
the same
excuse
day, Wednesday, July
for the
10th,
breakdown of their marriage so she
2019.
could get out of it in the beginning.
The evidence will show that
and
Charles planned to come
just
to our
creating
Chandler
problems
home and
to-
pick up JJ and drive him to
as a
school
reason
on Thursday
to break
morning,
up
July
the
11th,
relationship.
2019. The evidence will also show you that Lauren's Life Academy opens its gates at 8:25 a.m. in the morning. And the evidence will show that Charles showed up at our Chandler residence around 7:30 in the rental car I booked for him on the morning of Thursday, July 11th, 2019. The evidence will show that Charles began texting with my brother, Adam Cox, before he entered our residence. And that Charles and Adam were discussing in their text communications that my other brother, Alex Cox, was at the residence. The evidence will show that on the morning of July 11th, that Tylee was asleep in her room and my brother Alex was asleep in the guest room. The evidence will show that when Charles entered the house, only JJ and I were awake and present. The evidence will show that after we put JJ in the rental car, that Charles came back into the residence to receive his phone, leaving JJ in the front seat of the rental car with the engine running. He was 7 years old. The evidence will show that Charles began to scream at me when I refused to hand him his phone. The evidence will show that
I
Charles
would be pissed too if somebody
woke
took
up
my
Tylee
phone.
and Alex.
That doesn't justify
The
him
evidence
being
will show
killed.
that Tylee came out of her room with a bat to protect me, her mother, from her stepfather, Charles Vallow. The evidence will show that Tylee and Charles fought over the bat, and that after a struggle over the bat, Tylee fell onto the ground, and Charles lifted up the bat to hit Tylee with the bat. The evidence will show that Alex then intervened to protect Tylee from being hit with the bat. He did not have a gun. He was not wearing a shirt. He was pulling up his jeans because he just woke up and came into the room where he heard the screaming. The evidence will show that Alex and Charles got into a physical struggle for the bat and fell onto the ground. The evidence will show that Tylee, who was on the ground, was lifted up by me and sent outside to get away from the struggle and to protect JJ, who was still in the running car, in the rental car in the driveway. The evidence will show that after the struggle on the ground between Charles and Alex, that Charles prevailed with the bat and began to come towards me with the bat as I ran away from him into the kitchen.
With his phone.
Evidence will show that at some point while I was running away from Charles, who was chasing me with the bat, that Alex apparently retrieved his gun. The evidence will show that I ran outside to the children and that Alex shot Charles in self-defense. The evidence will show that Tylee and I had both run outside without shoes. The evidence will show that JJ was still in the front seat of the rental car with the engine running and struggling to get out of the car. Tylee was trying to keep him in. The evidence will show that Tylee and I got into the rental car with JJ and drove away. The evidence will show you that I drove the children away from the residence towards JJ's school. Can I grab a tissue?
Yes.
She must use some like makeshift roller curlers. I don't know. I'm just talking about her hair. It's girl things, but she's had her hair curly in all the
The evidence
interviews.
will show
And I don't. Those
that
are
I
like
drove the children through the Burger King
made
drive-thru
curls.
that
They're not
Charles had
natural.
promised JJ. The evidence will show that we continued to drive towards JJ's school and that the gate was not yet open at JJ's school. So we drove a block west of the school to a Walgreens where I ran in to purchase flip-flops for Tylee and myself so that we could walk JJ into school on the hot pavement. The evidence will show that Tyler and I returned
Yeah.
directly to our residence where we met with police in our
So
driveway.
she changed her story. Somebody just brought this
The
up
evidence will show
in the
that we were
comments.
spoken to by the
She was
Chandler police
supposedly,
officers.
she said she drove away.
And the evidence will show that Tyler and I were told by the Chandler police detectives that Charles had passed away.
But in the police interview, she said she was in the kitchen with his phone.
The
And her
evidence will
brother
show
was in
that
the other
we were
room
put
with
into a
Charles
police van and
when
driven to
Charles
the
was
Chandler
shot.
Police Department.
So she changed her story right there in the
The
opening
evidence will
statement.
show that Alex was taken by police in a police car to the Chandler Police Department.
Thank you,
And that
Chuck.
we were all three separated
Thank
into
you. Shout out
interrogation rooms
to
and we were
you.
each interviewed. The evidence will show that next, Tylee and I were brought back together into a room at the Chandler Police Department and were introduced to a victim's advocate who was very kind to us. The evidence will show that after speaking to the victim's advocate, that Tylee, Alex, and myself were put back into the police van and driven back to our residence.
Yeah, they got
We
some
were
sort
directed
of
by the Chandler detectives
privilege. I don't
take
want to
the
say what
rental car
kind
and return later to the residence
but they weren't
after
treated
we
as
picked up
suspects.
JJ from school.
in the
The
beginning.
evidence will show that we did as instructed by the Chandler detectives. The evidence will show that we drove to Alex's residence where we attended to the wound on the back of his head. The evidence will show that Alex was then contacted
he would've got cracked
by
in the head
Chandler
with a
detectives
bat,
to return to the residence so that Alex
he would
could
have
walk
had
them
like
through the events
major
that occurred
injuries, not
with the detectives at the residence.
what he was faking. In
The
my
evidence will
in
show
my
that
opinion.
Alex, Tylee, and I did return to the residence as instructed. And the evidence will show that Alex entered into the residence with Detective Moffett, but that Tylee and I were met by Detective Inkland in the front yard.
Yeah, that's the body cam
The
footage where
evidence will
she
show
acted
that
like
at the time,
it was another
Detective
day in her
Inkland
life.
asked
Like,
Tylee and
oh,
myself if we had Charles' cell phone.
there's yellow tape
Tylee
around my
retrieved Charles'
house.
cell phone from the rental car and gave it to
I'll be
Detective
back then.
Inkland at 3:11
Like, what the
p.m. on July 11th, 2019.
I'm gonna go grab some milk
And at that
from,
time,
from
Charles'
Ralph's.
phone was placed in the custody of Chandler police detectives. The evidence will show that Detective Inkland asked us if we knew the passcode on Charles' phone, which Tylee proceeded to give
Yeah,
to
they're saying in the
Detective
chat
Inkland.
when she returned the evidence, she was laughing,
The
saying,
evidence will show
"Sorry,
that Tylee and I
neighbors. Like,
left the
I'm new to
residence
the
pick up
neighborhood.
JJ from
Sorry,
school,
sorry for the chaos."
while Alex remained at the residence
Your
with
husband
the
is
detectives.
lying in his own blood
Evidence
inside
will
the
show
house,
that
and
by
you're
the
laughing.
time Tylee, JJ, and I returned to the residence, that all police, EMS, CSI, and detectives were gone from the residence and only Alex remained. The evidence will show that the next day, I contacted Chandler Police to inform them that Charles' belongings were still at the hotel. I asked the detective if I should go get them, and I was told that they would take care of it.
That's another
The evidence will show that I asked
thing
the
that
detectives, what should we do next?
people are trying to act
And
like
they
they're
directed us that
helping.
They would contact
They'll
us in about 3
contact the
weeks
police to
after
see
their
if
supervisor
they can
passed
do
off the
something,
reports,
but
and
really they're
Alex would
trying
go
to
the
get
police
like
station and
intel
retrieve his gun.
disguised as,
The
oh,
evidence will show that the last thing
his
I heard
belongings
from
are at
Chandler
his
Police
hotel.
Department until June of
What do you need his
2021,
belongings for?
2 years later,
You guys are divorced.
when
You
I
want to
received a
divorce him. You
grand
didn't
jury
even want him in
indictment from
town.
this-
Now you're worried
from
about
them
his
for this
belongings.
alleged crime. The evidence will show that Chandler Police treated this incident as self-defense.
And object to that.
Objection sustained. The jury should disregard that last statement.
The evidence will show you that my brother, Alex Cox, passed away on December 12th, 2019.
Oh, that's right. Her
Almost
husband.
exactly
I mean,
5 months to the day after Charles,
This
my
is,
husband, passed away.
she is
The
an
evidence will show
evil
that Alex passed away
woman.
from a blood clot in his lung.
Objection. Again.
I'll sustain the objection. It's not relevant for this matter.
The evidence will show you that I am the only person being charged with this crime.
Because
I
her,
would
you're,
object to the relevance of that.
Sustained.
so she didn't object
As the
anything
state has
in the
mentioned, they're
prosecution's
alleging
opening
that
statement because
insurance
that was
money
probably
my
a
motive. Social Security was my
attorney
motive. Spouses having
skills she
insurance
didn't know she could
policies
use.
is not a crime. Collecting Social Security is not a crime.
She's had like 4 objections in
Self-defense
her
is
opening
not
statement.
a crime. A family tragedy is not a crime. It's a tragedy.
It's definitely not a family tragedy. This
All right, the
is
state calls first
homicide
witness.
that you put in
Thank you.
motion.
If I may go get him.
The only tragedy is the kids aren't here. That's the real tragedy. She's acting like a victim. Okay, so her opening statement wasn't as long as the prosecution's. The prosecution statement was like an hour. I don't know what's going to happen now, but a lot of people in the comments are asking, the jury does not know that the kids are deceased as well. So they're asking, it's going to be interesting because there is footage of the police interviewing her daughter, who's now passed away. But the jurors are not going to know that her children are not even alive anymore. Nor is the actual person that pulled that trigger, nor is the person that she's on trial in regards to conspiracy to homicide. Every single person in the scenario is not on this earth anymore. And she's the only what's that called? The dominating factor? I don't know if I'm saying that right. Sorry, I'm kind of tired today, but common denominator. There we go. She's the common denominator. So there are no coincidences, people. Things add up because that's the way they are. If it talks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it's a duck. So she is guilty. There we go. Everybody can go home now. We don't need to waste taxpayers' money, but here we are. So what happens next?
All right, sir, you're going to come up right here. My clerk will swear you in right here.
W-I-E-R-Z-B-I-C-K-I.
And your first name?
I-R-W-I.
Thank you. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give will be the truth?
Testimony already?
And nothing but the truth, so help me God?
All right, you're going to have a seat up here.
Dang, this is a speedy trial. I thought that was it, and then we were going to go home for the day. Who is
Sir, would
it?
you please tell the jury your name?
My name's Sergeant Erwin Worsbicky. I work for the Chandler Police Department.
How long have you worked for the Chandler Police Department?
June will be 10 years.
Did you have any prior law enforcement experience?
I had 10 years in Illinois.
Back on July 11th of 2019, what were your duties at that time?
I was working as a patrol officer, I believe in Beat 18.
And what were your hours?
Okay. I didn't know
0600
they were going to already start
1600.
cross-examining people.
Is that 6 a.m.?
6 a.m. to 4 p.m. Yes.
Thank you. Were you dispatched to a residence at 5531 South Four Peaks Place in Chandler, Maricopa County, Arizona?
Yes, ma'am.
And what were you dispatched for?
It was a shooting.
Were you the first on the scene when you arrived?
I
What
was,
did you
ma'am.
see? Okay. What were you wearing at the time?
I was in full patrol uniform.
Does the Chandler Police Department back then, did they have body-worn camera?
They did.
And can you describe where that was and how that works?
I believe back then I wore it on my left shoulder.
Okay. And how does it get activated?
You have to press a button and it'll turn it on.
Does it normally record audio?
Yes.
And did you have that on and did you activate it when you
I don't know
arrived
if you
to the
guys have
scene?
seen her body cam
Were there other
footage, but
officers on
she
scene,
pulls the
at some
Chris
point
Watts
when you got
acting so
After I
nonchalant.
arrived, yes.
Wrong way to act when you are the spouse of someone that is missing or
What other officers
Hurt.
arrived on scene?
Right after
you're
I
not supposed to
arrived,
try and
Officer
act
Crowder-
normal. You're supposed to act like concerned.
Can you
take note,
describe
people.
to us sort of what happened as you get to the scene? How did you and Officer Crowtham handle the situation?
When I was getting out of the car, I believe the gentleman that called in was still on the phone, and we advised dispatch to tell him to come out with nothing in his hands except his phone. As he opened up or came out the front door, I started giving him commands as what I wanted him to do.
So you're talking with dispatch. Is that the same as 911?
Yeah, it's the same dispatch center.
So is the person who's talking to the 911 person then just relaying information to you?
Yes,
So you're able to tell that person, tell dispatch to tell the person to come out.
yes,
Did you and Officer Krautheim have someone come out?
yes.
Can you describe for us the
Okay, I've seen the
person's
body footage, the body cam
demeanor
footage.
as they're first exiting?
He was very nonchalant, very
Yeah.
compliant with us.
Okay. You said he still had his phone?
Yes,
They
you recall
thought
if this
that
other
they were
man
going to be able
was-
to cover this up, and
I do not recall.
the cops weren't going to question what happened. It was simple self-defense,
Do you recall where he came out of from the house?
but
He came up.
acting too nonchalant
When
is a
he
flag.
exited the
It's a
house,
red flag.
What did you guys have him do?
I gave him commands to come towards us and then have a seat on the curb.
Okay. So there's just two of you officers still at this point?
Yes.
What did you do at this point?
I decided to go check for anybody that was injured inside and clear the house, make sure there was nobody else in there.
Okay. What did Officer Krautheim do?
I believe he started speaking to the gentleman that we had come out the house.
So he stayed outside
Yes,
and you went into the house.
yes, ma'am.
When you talk about clearing the house, can you tell us what that means? What do you do?
We just wanted to make sure that if anyone needed aid rendered to them, we could render aid to them, or if there are any more suspects in the residence, that we could try to apprehend them.
Does that mean that you walked through the entire house?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. And all that's when your body cam is on?
Yes, ma'am.
When you first entered that house, can you describe for us what you saw when you walked in that front door?
Yeah, initially when I walked in, it opened up into like a day room or something like that, and just off to the right, I saw somebody laying on the ground, motionless.
Yeah, they're saying they
Did you
took
notice anything about that room?
45 minutes to
It was empty,
call.
So no furniture.
no furniture.
For
Yeah,
help.
It was just an empty room.
So
The person that you saw.
basically
to the
let him
right,
die on the
male
floor.
or female?
Male.
And can you describe how you saw him laying on the ground?
Yeah, he was laying on his back, I believe with both of his hands to his side, motionless.
what's up, Dave?
And then I went up over to him to check his pulse.
Is that standard for police to check the welfare of any potential victims?
Yes.
When you checked the pulse, did you find one?
No.
Did
Yeah,
you
he had
notice
been
anything
bled
else
out
about this
already.
victim?
Yeah, I noticed that there were 2 apparent gunshot wounds to his chest area, and there was blood pooling in like his kind of like neck collar area.
Did he appear to still be alive to you?
No.
As part of your job, both with your prior experience in Illinois and your experience here in Arizona, have you seen deceased people before?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you think this person was dead?
Yes, ma'am.
If you didn't think he was dead, are police trained to do CPR?
Yes, ma'am. We're all certified to.
Would you have done that if you believed that would have helped him?
Absolutely.
So even though a person appears deceased to you, is fire still called out to check on them?
Yes.
Why is that?
They go through their own process and procedures, and I believe they usually give the official time of death.
Okay. Did you notice anything else in that room where that male was lying?
I can't think of anything right now, no.
Do you recall seeing any projectiles on the ground near the victim?
Objection, leading.
It's a yes or no question.
I believe I did, yes.
Okay, Lori gave her first objection.
When you walked in the house,
I think the
after
judge
you
is
saw this
not on
male
Lori's
the
side.
ground,
He just dismissed her objection,
did you continue through the house?
and he sustained all of the prosecutor's
And
objections.
was that to clear it?
Yes.
And will paramedics or fire come
This
in if you
case is
haven't
gonna
left the
be-
house yet?
Hopefully
Usually
speedy.
no.
So they want to make sure it's okay as well?
Yes.
After you cleared the house, did you, or as you were clearing the house, did you ever locate any weapons?
Yes, I believe
Where
we
was the
located
gun?
a firearm in one of the back bedrooms.
Okay. Did you touch that in any way?
I don't recall.
Okay.
Yeah, what was
After you
the
cleared the
weapon?
house, did fire enter?
Where was the
Yes, ma'am.
weapon?
And what did fire do?
They began to try to render aid to the victim.
By the time fire came in, were other officers now on scene?
Yes,
Were you still wearing and recording with your body cam?
yes, ma'am.
Does the body cam, you told us that it's on your shoulder. Does it always show where you're looking?
No,
So your eyes or your head can be turned to a different direction than what the camera is actually
yeah,
showing?
if I was turning and talking to the judge, my camera would be facing the crowd.
I want to show you
She gonna bust out the body cam footage?
a video.
Oh, we're gonna see it. I've seen this footage already.
And if I can have my paralegal bring that
Anyone-
up and have him identify it.
Familiar with this case has seen this body cam footage.
And so if you could just look at that and let me know if you recognize that as your body cam minus the audio of it.
Yeah, that's my body cam.
Do you recognize that as you in it?
Yes, ma'am.
And you have previously watched that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Your
so
Honor, the state will move to admit exhibit number.
the jury has not seen this body cam footage because they are not familiar with Lori Vallow.
Any objection?
No objection.
Two submitted.
So even though this is
You may
out
Publish it?
You may.
in the internet, these people they have gotten to sit for the jury are supposedly blind to this information. Okay, so let's see what they show. They're going to show him walking in the house with Charles lying on the ground.
So this is the house you're walking up to, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
As you're talking to dispatch?
Yes.
And this is the individual that is coming out that you asked dispatch to have come out?
Yes, ma'am.
And is that Officer Krautheim in the back?
It is.
I think that was her brother, Alex. So I wonder what the prosecution's going to ask him. You know, they found bullet casings next to
Are you announcing
Charles'
Yes, ma'am.
Charles' body.
that standard?
Yes.
That where you checked to see if this male had a pulse?
Yes, ma'am.
Somebody put in the comments she's been waiting her whole life to do that objection leading. Lori using her lawyer terms that she learned in her 5 years in jail. She's got to use them now or never. It's her time to shine.
But the weapon that you told us that you found?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, somebody said it's too bad this
Are you
is
letting
only
people
available
know
in
on the radio
720.
that you found a weapon?
I believe so, yes.
The chat is going off.
You told us that other officers were arriving.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that what we see
She's
here?
a fruitcake.
Yes.
And is fire also starting to come in?
I believe they were right behind him, yes.
That you continued to clear the rest of the house?
Yes, ma'am.
So what do we see there?
It appears that the fire is rendering aid to the victim, or attempting to.
So it's 2:30 California time,
Were you
PST time,
walking
Arizona
around
time.
Trying to find identification for the individual on the ground?
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know how long this
Were you
trial will
able
last, but it
to
can't
ever
last
find an
past 5:30, I
identification
would
for
think.
I was
They're
not.
on normal
So
office
no
hours.
wallet laying around?
No.
No ID in his pocket?
I didn't check his pockets, but no, I don't think fire found one.
So you're kind of talking with them to let them know who this is as well?
Yes,
Because they're documenting it.
yes.
What's your point, prosecution?
And is that the individual who came out with the phone from the house?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so that's Lori's
When
brother.
Dispatch and 911 told to come out.
Yes.
Supposedly he got hit in the head with a bat, which you would be knocked unconscious unless he tapped you. Even that would hurt. That would even hurt. You'd for sure get a concussion. Okay, he's rubbing his head. I've had a concussion before. They are no joke. I got cracked in my head by my garage door. Don't laugh. It's funny now, but I saw stars. I saw
When you
stars.
were
That shit
interacting
is
with him
real.
there, what was his demeanor like?
When you get knocked into
He was
outer
extremely
space.
calm.
And I had a concussion for about 3 or 4 weeks. I went to the doctor. Everything, you can't read. Your eyesight is affected. The light in your eye, everything is sensitive. Like I couldn't even open my eyes like most of the days because it hurts your brain. Like it's like stimulant, too much stimulant. That's what happens when you get a concussion. So I literally had to
What was
like
that you were looking for
lie
a
with my
wallet
eyes
for
closed
this
for like
individual?
weeks until my
Did it
brain could
seem unusual to you that you
handle
couldn't
like
find one?
movement. It was crazy.
I wouldn't say it was unusual. I didn't know if he lived there or not, so I just kind of looked around to see if there was anything laying around.
Uh-oh, the commenters or chatters are arguing with each other. You are so stupid they don't allow hair dyes, scissors, brushes, hairsprays in prison. Yeah, that's why I'm wondering how she curled her own hair. She did some sort of makeshift curling rod. She's definitely resourceful because I don't know how she did that in jail. She's going to ask him, and what time did you become aware that my children were zombies? That's funny.
Is this you still trying to see if there's anything in the residence that might be
Calling
related to that
her
individual?
late husband and kids
I think I was
zombies
just
are
giving
crazy.
Officer Cohen a recap of what I already went and looked through.
Oh, God. It's going to be a long day, guys. What is the prosecution doing this for? Oh, my God. I feel bad for the jurors. She's like looking for something in this footage, but usually you're more prepared and you have like timestamps like, okay, jump to time 5:04.
I've shown defense counsel or defendant exhibits 3 and 4. That's paralegal. those two up to the officer to review as well.
The chat is saying this attorney is not prepared. Her questions go nowhere. Yeah, she did
Do you
her.
recognize those as sort of screenshots of two different views during your body cam footage?
Yes.
She did her entire opening,
State will move
entire
to
case in the
admit
opening statement.
Exhibits 3 and 4.
This is
Any
making me.
objection?
This is making me want to smoke, guys.
No objection.
3 and 4 admitted.
I make this a little bit more exciting. I should do some like weed live streams. I will soon.
So in this photo, when you were looking at it, were you able to see here's where you are checking to see the pulse of this individual?
Yes, ma'am.
And did this also reflect what you had talked about of the blood pooling that had run towards his
Oh, they're
neck
not going to
area?
show that. It's too graphic, I guess. I want to see that though.
Exhibit 4. Is this sort of when we first see you walk back in and we see fire working on the individual?
Yes.
My computer keeps
The
making
one
it-
and only
oh,
Botox Cosmetic, FDA approved for over 20 years.
my computer keeps making a beep, but I don't know where it's coming from. I hope it's a super chat.
Joel, who was on the call with 911, came out, that you observed the phone with him. He was kind of holding it.
Yeah.
Did you ever see any other phone in the house as you were looking around? Anything obvious laying around?
I don't recall, no. I don't believe I did.
No phone on the ground near the deceased male?
Not that I recall, no.
After you had cleared the house, allowed fire to enter, and other officers were arriving, were you
getting
tasked
hot in
with
here.
going out to put up some crime scene tape?
Yes, ma'am.
What does that mean?
It's just tape that keeps the general public out, keeps the media out, so we have a secure scene, and it doesn't get tainted by anybody or anything.
So that included both the house and some of the street.
Yes, ma'am.
Did that sort of end your involvement?
Yes.
Okay, so
I have no other questions.
oh my god.
All right, cross-examination.
Okay, let's see what Lori asks him because I have no idea what this prosecution asked, what any of those questions had to do in any way to help her side of the case. But let's see what Lori has to
It's
say.
Sergeant. Where's Vicky? Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
I like to get that right. Okay. You said that the individual exiting the house was nonchalant. Is that correct?
I don't know if I used those words, but he seemed very calm, yes.
Very calm.
Yes.
Is that the same thing to you as nonchalant?
I wouldn't use that word, so I would say he looked very calm and unbothered.
But you said nonchalant a minute ago.
I don't recall saying that.
Okay. Does everyone act the same in a stressful situation that you've experienced? No? Are you qualified to give someone a psychological evaluation?
No.
No. You put your hand on my husband's neck for checking for a pulse, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
That's what you did when you first came in?
Yes.
Did you perform CPR?
No.
No. Why not?
Because you guys waited 45 minutes to call anybody. He was already dead.
And that's not your protocol?
To what?
To perform CPR until fire comes in?
Not if it's going to make it even worse because they had apparent gunshot wounds to the chest.
What do you mean by that?
Well, if I start pumping on his chest, it's going to start spewing blood out of his chest even at a more rapid pace.
So
my
when the
God.
911 operator was telling my brother to do that, that same thing would happen?
All
Yes.
depends on when the call came into dispatch.
But I'm saying if you're doing CPR on someone with a gunshot wound in the chest, on the chest.
Could, yes.
Yeah. Okay. And you said something else. You said fire gives official time of death. Is that correct?
Yes,
Okay. And what was that time of death? Do you know?
I do not recall.
And you cleared the house before fire came in. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you were looking for some kind of identification?
When
Yes.
I cleared the house,
Yes.
I was looking for other potential victims and/or suspects.
Okay. But you were told on the phone that no one else was in the house but Alex. Is that correct?
I don't recall if I was told that or not.
Okay. Do you have any crime scene investigation experience?
Just my 20 years of experience as a police officer.
Judge looks checked out already.
And you said something about, and this is just for me to understand, you said something about the casings being to the left of him or to the right of him?
I didn't say they were to the left or to the right.
Oh, did you say west or east?
No.
Sorry, that was my interpretation. Can you tell me what the weapon was that you found?
Somebody said waiting for my TH oil to kick in.
Was it a
Same.
45?
Don't recall.
Okay. Could you tell what direction the bullet came from?
Based off the way the body was laying, I could assume it came from where his feet were at.
Near the feet? Did you see the projectile that was in the baseboard?
I don't recall if I saw that or not.
I don't think she's doing a very good job. She's kind of adding details
He did not appear alive.
that
That you
weren't.
already thought that he was deceased. Is that correct? When you entered into the house?
Yes.
What time was
Revealed.
that?
I believe I was dispatched to the call at 8:41. So I mean, if I was going to make a guess on what time I walked into the house, I would say I was probably at the residence within 10 minutes.
So around 8:51, perhaps?
Possibly, yes.
Okay. And then when fire took over, is that the normal protocol for fire to take over and do the CPR?
Yes.
And so you didn't do CPR, but they did do the CPR. Is that correct?
Yes.
On top of the gunshot wound.
Yes.
Is that normal protocol?
I don't know what their protocol is.
Okay. I'm just asking because I wouldn't think to do that either. And then you said that you went outside to put up the crime scene tape. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So after you cleared the house, you left and went to the front yard?
Yes.
And then you were there for how long at the residence
Judge
before
looks
you
mad.
left?
He's like,
I
get
couldn't
the
give you
hell
that
off
time.
of out of my courtroom.
Did you stay for a while or was that the end of your job there?
I don't recall. It was a long time ago. I have no idea how long I was actually on scene for.
And who is your direct supervisor?
I believe that day was Sergeant Nocella.
I'm sorry, what was the last name?
Nocella?
Okay. And what contact did you have with Detective Moffat that day?
I don't know if I had any with him on scene.
Okay, what about Detective?
They say a good
Cooper,
lawyer
perhaps?
never asks a question they don't know the
I
answer
briefly
to.
spoke to her while I was on scene.
You only ask questions you
One
know
time? 2 times?
what
2
your
times?
I couldn't tell you a number.
Okay.
examinee is going to
And then
answer.
when you have to report to your superior before you left the scene?
He was on scene, I would imagine.
Nocella? Is that
Yes.
what you said? Okay. And then you don't know what time you left, but you arrived at approximately
Judge looks
8:51?
so bored.
Give or take, yes.
And then did you see me arrive at the scene?
I think as I was leaving, yes.
Judge's face says I
Approximately
need
around
a
the time
drink.
that I arrived, you were leaving.
I don't know if I left when you arrived, but I was on my way out of the
I
crime
think a
scene
drink
as far as I know.
sounds really good for this trial.
And then you, said something about 2 wounds. Is that correct?
Yes.
And how did you see the 2 wounds through the shirt?
Just was an observation that I made when I saw him laying on the ground.
So did you see 2 holes in the shirt?
Everybody's saying a drink
Sure
is a
exactly
great
what I saw when I
idea.
was there.
Yeah, we should
I
make
see
a
that
drinking
2
game out of
gunshot
this.
wounds to his chest.
And then I'm sure.
Every time they say zombie.
I won't speak for you. So when they began CPR, they did open his shirt. Is that correct?
I have no idea.
Because when you walked by, his shirt was open.
Objection to question.
Yeah, please ask questions only.
Did you discuss this case with Sergeant Nocella?
I don't believe so. I would imagine he was on scene and he got briefed by the detectives.
He got briefed by the detectives? Is that what you
In
said?
fact, I would imagine, yes.
Okay. And then have you spoken to the case agent on this case? How many times would you say?
Who's the case agent?
Oh, Detective Duncan. That's my
Detective
understanding.
Duncan? I mean, I've spoken to him many times in my career.
Regarding this case, how many times do you think you've spoken to Detective Duncan?
I couldn't even put a number on it. I would say very few.
Very few? Like, how many would you guess?
I would say maybe 5 times.
5 times. Thank you. And would that be in-person kind of discussions or?
Yeah, I wouldn't even say they were discussions, probably just in
I
passing.
feel like this lawyer wants to say something. Can
So
he
how many times
interject
have
or
you
he just
emailed
has to
with
let them
Detective
go?
Duncan
Like,
concerning this case?
Objection to relevance.
Overruled, you can answer if you know.
I have no idea.
What about text messages?
No idea.
Phone calls?
I have no idea.
Okay. And your report that you wrote about this, about how long after the incident did you make your report?
the judge gave her a
By
bone.
the end of my work shift at 4
He was
o'clock.
like, ah.
And then did you ever make any revisions to that
Overruled.
report?
I don't believe so.
The chat. What's her line? Oh, see, other people are comparing her to Jodi Arias. See, and it's all this
So you have to
Chandler,
sing
Mesa, Arizona
approximately
area. These crazy women are.
sometime in the morning, and by 4 o'clock. that
Shout
day
out
you had
to
written your
Chandler,
report.
though.
Is that correct?
It says,
And you haven't changed
imagine
anything on your report?
Jodi Arias and Lori Vallow in a cell
And your
together.
report is exactly as you left it when
That
you
would be crazy.
did you review it for this testimony today?
Yes.
And it was exactly the same as when you wrote it at 4 p.m. on July 11th?
I don't know if I wrote it at 4 p.m. It was
Or
done
by 4 p.m.
It appears to be, yes.
Somebody put, have you ever given Detective Duncan
Thank you, that's all I
donuts?
have.
All right, any direct?
Is she by herself? Where's her legal counsel?
Sergeant, you were asked about the shooter's demeanor. Were you just telling us what you observed?
Yes.
What did you observe?
I just observed him very calm.
So they
and
go to go
collected
back and ask
after
follow-up
just shooting
questions?
somebody.
And that's both seeing him come out as well as having some interaction with him on the curb?
Yes, ma'am.
When a
These
person
detectives are
is
used
been
to,
shot and you check
going
for
on stand, though.
pulse, and you believe
This
they
part of
are
the job.
deceased, as a police officer, are you
They're just not all
supposed to
televised.
touch the body?
No.
Is the body basically a crime scene?
Yes.
Based upon your training and experience, did you believe that the victim was deceased?
Yes, ma'am.
Do fire have EKG heart monitors and things that they use to determine if maybe you missed a pulse?
Yes, ma'am.
When you talked about giving CPR, if an individual is now a crime scene, would giving CPR to that deceased person change the crime scene?
Yes.
And so as someone who believed the person was deceased, you did not want to modify or change the crime scene?
Correct.
You were asked about the gun. Is the gun part of the crime scene?
Yes.
Were you responsible for processing the crime scene?
No,
Why didn't you go in there and pick it up and start handling it?
because I didn't want to alter where it was laying when he got done using it.
You were asked a lot about when 911 was called, when you were dispatched. This was a few years ago,
Several, yes.
2019.
Yes, ma'am.
This happened
Is there
6 years
something called
ago.
a CAD report that
Almost 6 years
documents
ago.
when 911 was called, when you were dispatched, when you arrived, and even when you left?
Yes, ma'am.
Would looking at the CAD report help refresh your recollection as to when those events occurred?
Yes.
If I may have my paralegal provide him with a copy of the CAD report.
Let me know where you guys are watching from. Are you guys in Arizona or California or another state? I wish we had like a witness list.
You want me to?
Starting, does looking at the CAD report help refresh your recollection as to when the 911 call was received?
Yes, ma'am.
When was that?
It was received at 8:36.
Does looking at the CAD report help refresh your recollection as to when you were dispatched?
It appears it was dispatched at 8:37.
So your memory of saying 8:50 or so was perhaps incorrect.
Yes.
Was looking at the CAD report indicate when you arrived?
8:43.
He was 10 minutes
So
off.
again, that was a little earlier than your memory was.
10 minutes. Who cares?
And does looking at the CAD report help determine or refresh your recollection as to when you left the scene?
Yes, ma'am.
When was that?
It's 5:31 p.m.
Oh, damn. He was there all day. We're not going to be here all day,
As
guys.
a police officer who is one of the first on scene, do you provide briefing or information to your sergeant or the detectives on scene as to what you saw, observed, and did?
If they ask me directly, yes, somebody will brief them that's on scene.
But you have to provide somebody that information to then provide to the detectives?
Yes.
Why is it done that way?
Because usually a supervisor is going to want to know what's going on and what we did, just so the detectives know exactly what they're walking into.
So for instance, if you had had to move the gun, they would want to know that, right?
Yes,
Or if you had moved the body, they would want to know that too, right?
yes,
And if you had found any evidence, would they want to know that as well?
absolutely.
And so is that what you would have to do that day when you are speaking to sergeant or detectives?
Yes.
I have no other questions, Your Honor.
Okay. So
Does any member of the jury have a question for this witness? If so, please write it
jury
on the
can-
provided
the
form.
jury can ask a question too.
I'm
I
not
forgot
seeing
that.
Any questions come down? You can step down, sir.
Okay.
Take
Witness
the call
number
for next
one.
witness.
Opening statements both completed and first witness cross-examined. I think we're going to wrap it up here unless we're going to see who else they call to the witness stand. She wanted a speedy trial. She got a speedy trial. I mean, this is very fast. I didn't know they were going to go into cross-examination today. But everybody's saying that she's crazy in the comments. Okay, let's see what happens next. What's going to happen? So her son did speak on the interview she gave right before the trial started. And he said he could not sit in this courtroom, that it's too heavy for him to deal with. he does not support his mother.
All right, go ahead and have a seat over here to my left.
He thinks she's crazy. And he seems like a really nice guy. Like, this lady just went off the rails and kind of just screwed her entire family.
So would you please introduce yourself
sad.
to the jury?
I'm Robert Krautite.
For what?
And
For some
where do you
dude?
currently work?
I currently work at the Sandra Day O'Connor Federal Courthouse
Back in 2019, where were you working?
as a Chandler police officer in Chandler, Arizona.
How long did you work for the Chandler Police Department?
25 years.
When did you retire?
About 3 years ago, February.
When you were working there in July of 2019, what were your duties at that time?
I was a patrol officer. I was responding to calls for service.
Okay. And do you recall what your shift was at that time?
It was a day shift. I think I start my shift at 6 and end at 4.
Were you working patrol for Chandler Police Department on July 11th of 2019 at about 8:36 a.m.?
I was.
Were you dispatched to 5531 South Four Peaks Place in Chandler, Maricopa County, Arizona?
Yes.
What were you dispatched for?
A shooting that had just occurred.
Based upon the information that was, well, let me ask you this. When you are arriving to a scene, do you get information relayed to you about this call?
I do.
Why is that?
The call taker is asking the person on the phone what's going on, where it is, who's there, just basic information. And then dispatch relays that information to me as I'm driving to the call for service.
Is that so you have a better idea about what you're walking into?
Yes, it's on a computer, but verbally, the stuff that's really pertinent before I arrive is just verbally done over the air.
So when you are arriving on the scene, did you think this shooting had just occurred?
I did.
When you got to this 5531 South Four Peaks, were there any other officers on scene yet?
Yeah, Officer Wiz was there.
Is that Officer Wiersbe?
Yes, I'm sorry, I apologize.
What were you wearing?
Patrol outfit.
Why is she
Basically,
asking
patrol uniform,
what
police
they were
uniform,
wearing?
Body worn camera.
She asked the other guy
And back
that.
then, where was your body-worn camera?
At the time, it was a lipstick camera, so part of it was here, but the camera's actually on my right shoulder.
Okay.
Lipstick camera, never heard that.
And was that on and recording as you sort of arrived on scene and while you were present there?
Yeah, I started recording while I was driving there.
Okay.
I want to
When you
see.
arrived, did you know whether or not the 911 caller was still on the phone?
Yeah, she was still on the phone.
I think
And-
Lori called in.
When you were talking with dispatch, did you arrange to have this person come out, or did Officer Wiersbe do that?
Yes, dispatch advised him to come out of the home without anything and hands up in the air. That's kind of
Oh
standard.
no, it was her
And
brother
did
that
he
called
comply with that?
911.
He did.
And he was very matter of fact. Hey, I killed
Exit did
somebody.
he come out of?
It was self defense.
Can you describe
Like,
sort of
oh,
his
okay.
appearance and demeanor as you observed him coming out of the house?
His clothes were clean. He was calm, not emotional at all.
Say it. Nonchalant.
Different than what I would have anticipated.
When he first
Lori's
exited,
obsessed
did
with
you
that word,
notice any
nonchalant.
injuries to him?
He was holding, it was a white rag at the time. It was just kind of red and white. He was holding on the back of his head
When he first exited? Or later?
as he's coming out of the house.
Did you notice any difficulty walking or talking when you first had contact with him?
No,
Yeah, if you would have got
You
hit in the
understand
head
me?
with the bat,
no.
Did you learn
you
the
wouldn't
name
be
of this
able
person?
to speak
I did.
clearly.
What was
Okay,
his name?
I have gotten
Alex
hit
Cox.
in the head,
Did you observe him
got a
sweating
concussion,
at all
and I
when he first
was
came out?
like blank for
Any
the
type of
the
jitters?
rest of the day.
No,
Any
Like,
uneven or broken voice?
you
as
are
he's talking to
very
you?
delayed.
no.
At some
I had a
point,
concussion.
Did you notice an injury to him?
So that's a
did.
good point.
And where
He
was
was not, he
On the
acted
back of his head,
normal. He was just acting like,
towards
oh, I
his
just got hit in the
right
back of the
side.
head. If you got
And
hit
what did you see?
by a bat,
I articulated my written report as about an inch laceration, a small like
is
knot, and it was bleeding a little bit.
what the hell is that? Somebody's phone.
fix that.
What was that? People are saying the aliens are calling because she's a zombie mom. Her people are coming to get her.
Alex Cox patting or rubbing.
Running a small
Oh
business
shit, it
takes
was the
grit and
zombies.
hustle.
Oh my god. I don't like that they cross examine the police officers. I mean, the police officers already gave their statement. I mean, I guess they have to do it verbally on the stand, but don't they write reports?
His talking with you or actions that made you concerned that you thought you should override that?
Yes.
Let me make sure you understood. Was there anything about what you observed with Alex Cox talking or his ability to move that made you think you should override his decision to not get treatment, and you thought, oh, he better get treatment, he's so bad off?
Oh, zero, none.
Yep. He did not get hit in the head by a
At
bat.
some point while you were talking with Alex Cox, did you see a
He
female and a
would have
teenager show
acted
up to see
differently, for sure.
did.
You can't get hit in the
you?
head
Did
with a
you
bat
eventually go speak with those two?
and be normal.
I did.
Where did you
Even if
speak
it's
with them?
not a hard hit.
Just on the other side of the street, they had parked right across from the house.
Did you speak with the adult female?
And
I did.
I know because
Did you ask
I
for
was hit in the
driver's license to
head
identify her?
before,
did.
and it was
And who was that person?
Lori Vallow.
I was noticeably
see
different.
Lori
I had to
Vallow
go
in
to a
photos
meeting,
back?
and I was
I do.
silent.
Can you
I
point her
couldn't
out and
even
tell us what she is
articulate.
wearing for the
I just
record?
sat in the meeting,
She's
just
at the
showed up
defense
because I
table
was
wearing
required to be there. I shouldn't have even
White
drove,
shirt underneath it. Looks like a
but
black
I was
jacket.
literally seeing
Trying to the
stars.
record reflect the witnesses identified the defendant.
And then I found out I had a concussion. I knew I had a concussion though, because I hit my
When you
head
went to
so
speak
hard.
with Lori Vallow, did you know that the deceased person in the house was her husband?
I did.
When you went to speak with Lori Vallow, did you ask her whether or not the individual inside her husband lived there?
I did not ask her that.
Can you describe for us Lori Vallow's demeanor as you were interacting with her?
Calm, nonchalant, just kind of.
He used the
matter of
word
fact, just
nonchalant.
talking to me as I'm talking to you now.
When you went to speak with
Lori's
Lori Vallow,
gonna bring that
can
up.
you tell us approximately how many?
She's like, how
police
does
cars were
somebody
parked
ask
around there?
nonchalant? How are they supposed to act?
Well, I don't
Like,
know either
concerned
myself. I know
is
there
how
was
they're
at
supposed to
least
act.
Mine and
Not
and
like,
Officer Wiz's,
oh,
there's
shit.
a fire truck there. I think there was an ambulance.
There's a
there,
dead
and
body in my house.
I think
Can
there
you get
may have
that?
been another.
I'll be
police
back.
car.
I'm gonna go get lunch.
I can't remember, but there was a lot of emergency vehicles just near the home itself.
And was her brother Alex Cox sitting sort of in view of her?
Literally across the street, like the desk of the prosecutor would be her car. This is the street, and I had Alex seated right on the sidewalk.
When she first arrived, did she actually walk up to where you were with Alex Cox?
Yes, she did.
And you asked her to go back to the other side of the street.
I did.
Did she ever ask you how her brother was doing?
No.
Did she
Yeah,
ever
she
ask you if her
doesn't
brother
care.
needed medical attention from being hit by a bat?
No.
Exactly.
Did she ever ask you why there were so many police cars around the neighborhood?
No.
That is weird.
Why there was a fire truck parked in front of her house?
No.
So, other than gathering basic
All she said was,
information,
oops, I hope we
did
didn't
you
make our
really talk to her
neighbors
about anything
mad.
else?
She literally said
No.
that on the body cam.
And were you wearing that body-worn camera footage or camera when you had contact with her?
I did.
After you talked with Lori Vallow, did you go back and stand near Alex Cox again?
Yes.
Everybody involved in this case has already been unalived except Lori,
If I can have my paralegal.
Her
go
brother.
and show him exhibit number 1.
who is in that body cam footage right now, her ex-husband, her 2 kids that were also there that day. They're all not
Do you
on this
recognize
earth
exhibit
anymore.
number 1?
I do.
Is that a copy of your body cam footage from July 11th, 2019?
It is.
Is it missing the audio other than during your interaction with Lori Vallow?
Correct, yes.
And did you initially identify that previously as your body cam?
I did.
State will move to admit exhibit number 1.
Okay, I wonder
Any
if
objection to
they're
exhibit
gonna
number 1?
play Lori's return to the
Any
house after
objection to-
she
No objection.
left,
Admitted.
And if we could
took her
publish it.
kids to school like it was another day, a normal day, came back, and cops were surrounding her house, fire trucks were surrounding her house, crime tape is surrounding her house, and she's just wondering when she can go back in. It's like, someone said in the chat, who else is smoking Mother
Is
Nature?
this you responding to the scene?
Shit, I want to,
Correct.
because this is not
Was your
exciting.
camera flipped upside down initially?
Well, the camera wasn't, the orientation of the software was.
So that's why we see the axon and stuff in the bottom corner upside down.
That is correct.
So this was a gated community?
It was.
Who is watching from Arizona? I haven't been to Arizona in a while. I wonder if it's a big deal out there. I wonder how packed the courtroom is. I don't think I would ever like just show up at a court trial unless like I had to be there. Like, I'll watch it from my house. I'm perfectly fine with that.
As you're driving, did you go by the fire truck here?
I did.
And is it standard for fire to stage a little ways away from the scene when it's a shooting?
Yes.
Why is that?
So they could respond quickly.
Do they want you to clear the residence first before they show up?
Yeah, it needs to be safe for the firemen. We had to make sure there was no one else in the house that was armed or in the area.
And as you're arriving, is the person, the shooter, still inside the house?
I can't recollect. I think he was at the door right now or just coming out to the door.
Why
Okay.
did you pull your weapon?
Yeah.
I was just told somebody killed somebody, so yeah, for my safety, I wanted to make sure I rendered him safe before I put my gun away. It was a threat to me.
So when he came out, he had both his hands up in the air? So at that point, nothing touching his head yet? No?
Correct.
Now, did you stay out with him while Officer Rusbicki went inside?
I did.
While you're talking with him during this whole time, at this point, he still hasn't brought anything out to try to place on his injury.
Correct.
I want them to play the body cam footage of Lori returning. And they're not even playing
Came out,
audio.
Did he already have those sunglasses on the top of his head?
So I guess I
He did.
wouldn't. I wonder if they would play the audio from hers.
Why did you have him move over here?
I actually physically couldn't hear him. Fire trucks are incredibly loud, so I had to move away.
The fire had already pulled up to now go inside the residence.
Correct.
And can you kind of see them in the corner going in?
Yes.
People are saying this prosecutor isn't very good. Like I said, the prosecution doesn't have to try very hard on this case.
Did you learn whose truck that was
But
in the driveway?
it is interesting how there's different levels
I don't
to
recollect
lawyers
right now whose truck it is.
on, like,
I think it's his, but I'm
how
not sure.
their skill set is. Like, I think I would be a good lawyer. You know, it is all about research, though. You definitely have to research and know what you're talking about. But once you have that, then the presentation is where, you know, determines whether you are great at communicating your ideas or will they fall on deaf ears. And what is the point of showing this? There's no audio. Okay, he's talking to Alex right now, who supposedly just got hit in the head with the bat. Totally coherent, nonchalant, not shaken up by having
Who's
to
that other officer
supposedly fight for his life in
That's
self-defense
Officer Wiz.
and just
Wizbetsky,
killing
sorry.
his
I've
brother-in-law.
been calling him Wiz since I've known him.
Shorter.
Anyways, guys, I'm going to wrap it up. Okay, I'll do a recap later. If you guys want to finish watching
Were
this,
you initially trying to control the scene yourself?
it's
having
at
to tell people where to go.
Arizona's Family 3 TV YouTube channel. 2,000 people are still watching, but I just wanted to see the opening statement. Got to do that. And we'll keep following this case. And please subscribe if you haven't. And share a comment where you're watching from. And I will see you guys. And